10 minutes later, Laura was sitting cross-legged on her bed, tucking into a vegetarian pizza with hot strands of melted cheese. As soon as she smelled its doughy aroma, she realised she was starving. Between bites, she shared bits with Skye. The pizza had come almost the minute her uncle left the house. In his rush to get out and make his phone calls, he had forgotten to leave any cash. Not only was Laura's pocket money a pound too short to pay the bill, it didn't allow for a tip for the delivery boy, a scruffy student with greasy hair. She'd tried calling her uncle on his mobile, but it went straight to voicemail. "I only do this job for the tips," the boy had told Laura angrily, "and there's no way I'm paying £1 towards your pizza out of my pitiful wages." Laura had apologised while clinging with all her strength to the collar of the husky, who'd been determined to eat the student whole. "I'm sorry, we're having a bit of a crisis. If you come back in half an hour, my uncle will make it up to you with a very generous tip." She'd invented the last part and hoped it were true. If her uncle was late or didn't have any money on him, the pizza boy would blow his top. Upstairs in her room, Laura worked her way through her third slice of pizza and tried not to worry about Calvin Redfern. He'd already been gone for nearly 25 minutes. While she waited, she racked her brains for any detail that might help him find Tarek. Her eye fell on the tiger tapestry. It was the work of a highly skilled craftsman. Could her friend, well, she could no longer think of him as an ex-friend, really have made it? She picked it up. It was fraying at two edges. It was as if it was unfinished or had been cut from the corner of a larger tapestry. She tugged at a yellow thread and it came loose. The lamplight turned it to spun gold, and something stirred in her memory. She unzipped the side pocket of her school bag and felt inside it for the gold thread and crumpled sheet of blank parchment that she'd found in the bottle early that morning. Even without a microscope, it was obvious the two threads were the same. Tarek. No, it was impossible. It couldn't be. It was inconceivable that Tarek, a painfully shy boy who could barely speak a word of English, could overnight have learned enough to write notes in handwriting worthy of a calligrapher and leave them in bottles. How could he have ensured it would be Laura who would find them? Or was he desperate enough to appeal to any passing stranger? The first 3 notes were concealed within the pages of The Castle in the Clouds. Laura laid them out on her bed. Can I trust you? Prove it. That was the message that was left in the sand, but she jotted it down on a piece of paper to keep record of it. Because if I trust the wrong person, I could die. The 4th note was blank. But in the unlikely event that Tarek was the message writer, he would not have left a roll of blank parchment paper, elaborately tied with a silk thread for no reason. Laura picked up the note and sniffed it. It smelled faintly of citrus. On impulse, she held it to the light bulb on her bedside lamp. She knew from a plot twist in one of her Matt Walker books that invisible ink made from lemon juice or cornflour could be made visible by heat. A corner of the parchment turned brown and began to smoke. Laura snatched it away and blew on it hard. Just visible was the scrawl of a pale beige handwriting. The note was addressed to her. Dear Laura, by the time you read this, it will be too late for me. But if you take this letter to your uncle, I hope and pray it will not be too late for justice. This is all I know. If he is as smart as they say, he will figure it out. 20 units, Dead Man's Cove, LAT. I'm sorry for everything. You are the best person I ever knew. Your true friend, Tarek. So it was him after all. He'd concealed his knowledge of English, even from her, until the very end, because he'd somehow known it could as easily destroy him as save him. The doorbell rang. Skye leapt off the bed and barked ferociously. The pizza boy had returned for his money. Laura debated whether to ignore the bell. He'd only rant and rave about his tip and the missing cash. The doorbell rang again, this time more insistently. Oh, no, you don't, Laura said to Skye, who was scratching at the door. You'll only try and eat him again. You stay here. I'll attempt to pacify him. She shut the husky, still barking, in her room and ran downstairs. Remembering her promise to her uncle, she checked through the letterbox slot that it was definitely the delivery boy. He had his back to her, but she could see the red and blue Pizza Perfect uniform. Laura hauled the door open. "I'm really sorry, but..." That was as far as she got. Beneath the Pizza Perfect hat was the gaunt grey face of the jogger who had passed her on the island path that morning. He was holding something white in his hand. "Laura Marlin?" he inquired, and then the world went black. Well, this is getting tense, isn't it? We only have 4 chapters left until the end. What do you think's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen next? Where do you think she's going to end up? Very, very tense indeed. Right, so tomorrow you will need to check in on the YouTube channel to hear the next chapter of the book, and hopefully we will find out what happens to her.